It was a quiet evening in the small town of Willowbrook, and the sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. 12-year-old Mia was walking home from her friend's house, her flashlight cutting through the growing darkness. She hummed a tune to herself, trying to ignore the eerie silence that seemed to hang in the air. The streetlights flickered as she passed the old, abandoned house at the end of Maple Street, a house everyone in town avoided. Mia had always been curious about the house, but tonight, something felt different. As she walked by, she noticed a shadow moving on the ground. At first, she thought it was her own, but when she stopped, the shadow kept moving. It slithered across the pavement, twisting and turning like a living thing. Mia's heart skipped a beat. She told herself it was just her imagination, but when she took a step forward, the shadow followed. She quickened her pace, clutching her flashlight tightly. The shadow kept up, gliding effortlessly behind her. Mia broke into a run, her sneakers pounding against the sidewalk. She glanced over her shoulder and saw the shadow gaining on her, its edges flickering like flames. Desperate, she ducked into an alley and hid behind a dumpster, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. She peeked out and saw the shadow pause at the entrance of the alley. It seemed to hesitate, then slowly began to creep toward her hiding spot. Mia's hands trembled as she aimed her flashlight at the shadow. The beam of light hit it, but instead of disappearing, the shadow writhed and twisted, as if in pain. It began to take shape, forming a humanoid figure with glowing red eyes. Mia's blood ran cold as the shadow whispered her name, Mia. Terrified, she bolted out of the alley and sprinted the rest of the way home. She slammed the door shut behind her, locking it and leaning against it as she tried to catch her breath. She peered out the window, but the shadow was gone, or so she thought. As Mia climbed the stairs to her room, she noticed something strange. Her own shadow wasn't moving with her. It stayed frozen on the wall, even as she walked. Then, slowly, it detached from her body and slinked across the wall, merging with the shadowy figure that now loomed in the corner of her room. The shadow spoke, its voice deep and echoing. "I've been waiting for you, Mia. You've always been curious about the unknown. And now, you've found me." Mia's fear began to fade as she realized the shadow wasn't evil, it was lost, trapped between worlds. It explained that it was once a child named Thomas, who had disappeared decades ago. Thomas couldn't rest until his story was told, and he needed Mia's help to uncover the truth about his disappearance. The next day, Mia returned to the abandoned house, determined to help Thomas. Inside, she found old newspaper clippings and a dusty diary hidden under a floorboard. The diary belonged to Thomas, and it told the story of a boy who had been trapped in the house after a tragic accident. Mia read the final entry aloud, her voice trembling but steady. As she finished, the shadow began to fade, its glowing eyes softening. "Thank you, Mia," Thomas whispered before disappearing completely. Mia returned home, her own shadow now normal. She looked out her window one last time, smiling faintly. The streetlights flickered, and the wind rustled through the trees, but this time, it felt peaceful.